So it's January. It's, more importantly, 2026. This is it. What's crazy, I think what we'll always think about now with time is how long it's been since COVID. Because now this is going to come up to 6 years. It's sort of like when you think of something now, I don't know if you do this. If I haven't seen somebody for a long time, or if I haven't watched a film or something for a while, do you ever do that when someone asks you about a film and you're like, oh, I saw it, but it was ages ago. I basically don't know it anymore. I now do that with whether it was, like, which side of COVID that was. So I'll go, oh no, if anything happened in 2019, I'm like, oh, it's sort of like the new BC. Because that's really it, isn't it? You go, oh, that was pre-COVID. It's like PC. BC, before COVID. I think we should start doing that. But maybe call it 2. BC 2. There was BC, AD, which was also BC 2, and now we're AC. Could catch on. So, what was my point? Oh yeah, it's 2026. 6 years since COVID. Maybe I'll update you. What happened was, late last year I went to Canada on my tour, and I don't think I really documented that enough. So I'll go through that. People kept asking me about jet lag, but I actually started off in Halifax, which was only a 4-hour time difference, which really helped. Because what happened was, I got to Halifax at about, I think it was 11 o'clock in the morning, Halifax time. So I sort of had a day just to knock about in Halifax. Went for a walk. It was cold. The cold that hits you. And it hit me. But I went out for a nice walk. I think I took the wrong turning because it was like a ghost town for a lot of it. And I was confused. And then when I came out of the hotel the next time, I turned the other way. And that was sort of where life was. But that was nice, because that's Nova Scotia, which I think is New Scotland. I don't know in what language or how that came about, but people say Nova Scotia, that's New Scotland. I don't really know. What language would that even be? What is that? Maybe, see, now I don't know what you are allowed and not allowed to say. Cherokee? No, I don't know if that's okay to say or not. I don't know. But it was nice. Cold. Not a lot going on. But I don't know how to travel. I travel a lot on my own, but only because it's for work. I don't think I'd be very good at just going on holiday on my own, because I don't really know what you're supposed to do. I do 3 things. I'll always find like a secondhand bookshop. That's usually what I find to be in a good place. That's like in a fun place. You know, you're not going to put, I don't know, wherever you're listening to this, think of like the worst part of your high street. Because every high street has the good part. But even the good part, you know, is maybe a bit too modern. It's not exactly culture. But either way, picture your high street. Really, the secondhand bookshop's going to be in an interesting part of your town or city. It's not going to be next to, you know, McDonald's. That's probably the one thing that everyone listening to this will have by their house. Do you know what I went to? It's interesting with my followers on Instagram and stuff. People are from all over. And I went last year to Kyrgyzstan, and I was posting pictures that I was there, and people were replying saying, oh my God, I cannot believe you're in my home country. Saying home country makes me think that they don't live there anymore. But I assume my home country. Why would you say that would you say that if you lived somewhere? We just say, oh, you're in my country. I don't know. In my home country. I don't know. But anyway, I was in Kyrgyzstan to do World's Most Dangerous Roads, which came out last year. So I actually filmed that in 2024, and it came out in March 2025. So again, when I was posting that I was doing it, people were then again messaging me to say, wow, you're in Kyrgyzstan. I'm from Kyrgyzstan. Crazy. But now, was there a McDonald's in Kyrgyzstan? I don't know. Maybe I should Google that. Is there a McDonald's in Kyrgyzstan? I didn't go to it. I don't go to McDonald's. The only time I go there is for a cup of tea if I'm like on the motorway and some of the service stations aren't good. Then I go there because they do actually have a contract with PG Tips, so the tea is quite good. Is there a McDonald's? Do you know what would be really depressing if I was Googling this and I realised it was in my search history as well? You know when you've searched something before and your phone gives you that little clock to go, you've actually asked this before. Is there a McDonald's in Kyrgyzstan? No. There are currently no McDonald's restaurants in Kyrgyzstan, though the Russian successor chain for Kozno Itochka expressed interest there. Expressed interest, so that doesn't exist. But most of you will have a McDonald's. Basically, the McDonald's near you isn't going to have like a really cool second-hand bookshop next to it. So I will always go and find I would search second-hand bookshop. And even if I'm in Barcelona, they will have like an English section as well. So I find it's like the good place to go in a city or town because it's in a cool area. So I'll do that when I'm somewhere. The other one, I didn't realise I did this, but I had a meeting when I was in Halifax. I had a meeting on Zoom, and it's with a director, and she lives in LA. And she said she always goes to the nearest body of water I was clearly having this same conversation with her that I'm having with you. Is this a conversation? You can't reply. But she said she always goes to the nearest body of water and to the local supermarket. And I didn't realise that I do that, but it must be without me really thinking about it. So when she said it, I was like, oh yeah, I do exactly that, because the nearest body of water I'll always go to, whatever that is, a river, sea. I'd always like to go and do that. I don't know why, but I just feel like I should. Wonder why that is. But I'll always look to go, oh, am I staying anywhere near water? Let's go and see that. And I would do that. And in the supermarket, I always find really interesting because they're always just laid out a bit different. And you'll see the things that they sort of preference more than others. So I like to go to the local supermarket, but I didn't think that was like a culture thing to do. But it was only when she said it that I was like, oh yeah, I do that. That's cool, I guess. So I did that. Because actually, when I was younger, we used to go to America on holiday a lot. And one of mine and my mum's favourite things to do was to go to the supermarket. If we had like a villa we stayed in, we'd go and do the big food shop, and that was exciting because it's all different. So maybe it's because of doing it since I was like 7. But so that's the 3 things I do: a bookshop, nearest body of water, and supermarket. That's how I travel. But I mean, does that sound good? Does that sound really boring? Basically, it's good to have those things you tick off. Another one I will do, I've realised, is like any sort of second-hand shop or like vintage retro, whether it's like a clothes shop, something like that. I like to do. So that's sort of, the 4. Because I found a cool one in Halifax, and it was the girls that worked there were so nice, and they pointed at a leather jacket and said that Johnny Cash used to own it. But it was, I think, like $2,500 that they were selling it for. But it was Johnny Cash. I guess they had a photo to prove it as well. But they said they think there's a local collector in Nova Scotia, so they were going to contact them. But I looked at that. Yeah, I'm wondering whose clothes I would buy. I guess that would be a cool one to have, to go, oh, that. The thing is, you're sort of, what are you buying that for? Because I'm never going to wear his leather jacket. I think he was a lot bigger than me anyway. And I couldn't really pull off a leather jacket. Also vegetarian. And I imagine that was real leather. I guess if you own something like that, you're just doing it to show people, aren't you? No one's owning that if they've not got people coming over to their house, I don't think. Because what would you own that for? I guess if you're a big collector and you've got his music and then you've got like a room dedicated to him or something, then that makes sense. But you have to be or like just music. If you've got if you're big into music, then you have it as part of like the whole room. Like if you had a basement and it was like the Hard Rock Cafe basement, stuff like that. But it was cool. I think that the shop should just keep it because it's a good talking point. And then maybe if you couldn't afford the jacket, you can buy something else. And then you go, oh, when I was there, I saw Johnny Cash's leather jacket. I wear a lot of, I've spoken about that a lot on the podcast, the white t-shirts. Maybe someone would want to own one of them one day. But what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, that was Halifax. And then I went to Ottawa, had 2 shows in Ottawa. So I actually flew to Ottawa, got there. I think I had a pitch meeting that day at the hotel in Ottawa. And I was exhausted. It's now when I think back to that, you realise just how tired you are. Because I flew to Ottawa, got there, had the meeting. Luckily, I could actually see the venue from the window of my room. So I was watching people go in. Because I went and did this. It was so close that I went to do the sound check, then went back to my hotel. And in my hotel, I was trying to find somewhere to have dinner. And the best place I could find was my hotel. And it had a Caesar salad. No. It wasn't maybe it was a Caesar salad. It was basically, it had a V next to it on the menu to suggest that's vegetarian. And when it came, there was no chicken. It was all vegetarian, apart from they'd crumbled dried bits of bacon all over it. And it was now probably, I think the first show was 7, because I did 2 shows that night, one at 7 and one at 9:30. So I think it was probably about 6-ish, and it'd been a bit of a wait. Maybe it was 6:10. It was a bit of a wait for that salad to come anyway. I couldn't complain. I did complain, but I say no. I commented, is what I did. I didn't have time for it to go back and for another one to come out. Also, I did think if I send this back, there might just be back there sort of picking that bacon off it rather than I can do that. So I said to the guy, it says vegetarian, this has actually just got pig on it. And then he was like, oh yeah. And he checked the menu. He was like, yeah, that's crazy. This is a new menu. I can't believe they've done that. And then he said, should I change it? And I said, I don't have time. So I just pick around it. Other than that, it was fine. But what one of my saviours actually was, sorry, I can feel my throat is getting a bit dry, so I'm just going to have a sip of tea. So sorry if you have to hear this. I'm going to hold the microphone away as much as I can. Really good cup of tea. Starbucks is my saviour when I'm away. I realise, because I know that's not exciting and you should be experiencing different cultures. I mean, we're all wondering it, so I'm going to quickly do a check. Is there a Starbucks in Kyrgyzstan? You can watch this, by the way. I think if you've got UK TV Play, I think the it's called World's Most Dangerous Roads. That was the TV show I did in Kyrgyzstan. So you can watch it in the UK, maybe on, actually, if you're in Canada, someone told me it's on BritBox there. If you've got BritBox wherever you are, if not, I think a lot of it's probably on YouTube. Is there a Starbucks in Kyrgyzstan? Is there a Starbucks in Kyrgyzstan? No Starbucks either. But when I'm away and when I was in Canada, Starbucks is good because they do just have tea, and they do these, because a lot of my, as lovely as it was to go around Canada, I got, I think, one proper day off when I was there, when I wasn't traveling or doing a show, and that was just Winnipeg. So I did get to have time around some of the others where I was 2 nights somewhere. I had 2 nights in Toronto doing 2 shows, so that meant you get to explore it. Anyway, other than that, it was airport, hotel, do the show, back to the hotel, back to the airport, back to that, basically. So in the morning, I love routine. So I want to try and get a routine as much as I can. So my routine ended up being go to the airport, check in, give them my bag or whatever, and then go to the Starbucks, and they do these egg whites, and they do now porridge, but I realised that makes no sense to a Canadian. So you have to say oatmeal. And then actually, when you do start to say oatmeal, you realise porridge sounds awful. But I don't know if it's Goldilocks and the Three Bears must be famous everywhere, and that's porridge, isn't it? She's saying porridge and that. The bears had porridge. I don't think they were saying oatmeal, but maybe that's just because I've got the English translation. Anyway, I had egg whites, oatmeal, and a cup of tea. And then they also did like the ginger turmeric shots at Starbucks. So it's sort of everything you need, and water. And I did that almost every day. That became my routine. And I do love a routine. And it's hard to have a routine because I went to Halifax, Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary in the space of 2 weeks. So it's not easy to have a routine. Anyway, the Ottawa shows were great. Then the next day I actually got the train to Montreal, which was lovely because you actually got to see the country, went through there, had a nice... they didn't have a Starbucks at the Ottawa train station, but on the train they served egg whites again, and oatmeal and fruit. So I had that and tea on the train. That was nice. Got there, had a meeting again when I was in Montreal. These are all on Zoom, by the way. These weren't people waiting for me around Canada for meetings. Had a meeting on Zoom. I need another cup of tea. Sip of tea rather than cup. And then so the hotel, I don't know if this is a common thing. The ground floor started on the 10th floor. So you had to go in, get in a lift or an elevator. That took you up to the 10th floor, and that was reception. And then on that floor, they had an outdoor hot springs. So as soon as I had my meeting, I got changed and went into the hot springs. And that was lovely. And it felt good as well because Canada doesn't have a lot of earthquakes. Because I was thinking if I was there in New Zealand, that I'd be thinking if there's an earthquake now. Because you never want to be in an earthquake, but I think you definitely don't want to be in an earthquake if you're just in a pool, just in shorts. Because I think that when I don't wear them anymore, but I used to wear flip-flops. And if you're in Australia, what's that, thongs, which is insane. I don't know where it is around the rest of the world, but flip-flops. But that's I always think they're not practical. You can't run in flip-flops. So you don't really want to be wearing them when you can. I now I've got the Birkenstocks, and it's a lot easier. So I was thinking if I'm in an earthquake, I don't want to just be in a pool anyway. And I don't want to be just in shorts. So I was relaxed because I didn't think that was going to happen where I was. And it was nice because it was. The problem was actually the water was so hot, but just right, but hot enough that my body was so warm that my face forgot that it was out in the cold. So my face was in minus 17 degrees. So that's minus 17 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but this is what was confusing me, because Celsius makes sense, because Celsius, 0 degrees, is freezing. That's when water will freeze, right? So minus that is that cold, and minus hot is up there. 100 degrees is going to be, actually, I think boiling's a bit less than that. But Fahrenheit is all over the place. Anyway, cold. And I forgot that my face was just sat out in that. My face wasn't under the water. So for the rest of the day, my face really felt dry and frozen, because it was. But other than that, it was lovely just to sit there, and just that felt relaxed. Then the show in Montreal was actually insane. I think they'd struggled to find a venue for me, and the venue we ended up doing, for comedy, it really has to be, ideally you'd have a black dark room with a low ceiling. This room was white with a high ceiling, and it was one of the weirdest shows of the entire tour. It was like it was in you could have done like a catwalk in there. It was more like a catwalk venue than a comedy venue. That was bad. But then I went for a nice dinner in an old women's prison. That's, just to be clear, it was a women's prison and now it's not, rather than it currently still being an active old women's prison. It was like, which I imagine would sell oatmeal. But anyway, it was a women's prison, and then the lady who ran it was clearly quite a famous place in Montreal, because it had all the pictures on the wall of all the celebrities that had been there with her. So that was really cool. We didn't have a photo taken. My throat is really dry. I think this is the most talking I've done in a while. Just me. Anyway, I had a nice meal there and a glass of wine, because I know it was maybe one of the only drinks I had the whole trip. But I had a glass of wine with dinner there with the promoters, who they're based in Montreal, the people who put on the tour. So that was lovely. And then over to Toronto. Toronto is a lovely theatre. You might have seen the video I posted online. Lovely theatre. 2 shows. One of them, incredible, loved it. The second one was a Sunday night, and I just sort of walked out, and the audience, they'd brought the Sunday energy. It was a strange start. I feel like I had enough messages from people who were there afterwards to go, that was a weird audience, but they all seemed aware. And also, they would have been quite aware because I did tell them quite upfront. I asked if they'd all sort of gathered outside before the show and decided to prank me. It was just weird. And then what happened was but it was nice. And in the end, it turned, and that's good. If you do have an audience that are a bit weird and you can turn them and then it becomes a normal gig, the gig's gone well. If you have a really good audience and they become weird by the end, the gig has not gone well. So it went the right way. Anyway, after the show, I was backstage with the promoter. This is in Toronto. She had flown there with me from Montreal. We were just having a chat, and a guy just came walking in, and it was a guy from the front row, and he just sort of, as he said, as I left, I saw one door open, and I thought I'd go through, push another door, that opened. He just kept pushing doors that opened and he said, then I could hear Jake's voice. I thought I'd come and say hello. Like, great. I feel like I like to bring quite a casual energy to the show anyway. Like, it's more like a conversation. I'm having a chat. I say a conversation. Really, it's only me talking. It's a bit like this. But I will just talk. But I talk to the audience a bit, and I feel like it's casual. I don't set myself out as a star. So I think that's why people, like, I remember once I used to do tour support for an act, and after the show, so they were the main act, I was the support. We were in the green room after the show. This is back in England. And this was a few years ago. This is BC. And the lady, one of the managers of the venues, came in, and she said, oh, some of the audience want to meet Jake. So I went out the front to see, and then the main act, they were waiting for me in the dressing room, probably thinking, why is he taking this long? They came out, and by the time they came out, the audience had lifted me up in the air, and they were sort of bouncing me up and down while they took photos with me. And the main act was like, this is crazy, put him down, like, you can't treat him like this. That's the sort of relationship I have with the audience, I think. They feel like they can just sort of pick me up and bounce me around. So this guy decided he thought that it was absolutely fine just to walk in and just sort of walk into the room. Luckily, the promoter was there, and she was really good at being like, whoa, step back, what's happening? And she spoke to him. She had the authority I need to get, where she was talking to him and making him walk backwards as she did it. And he had to sort of walk all the way back to where he'd come from. Then I went out and said hello and met him and his friends. And he was just a very confident and, I think, drunk guy. But that was Toronto. But Toronto was nice. I found a good place, actually. When I wasn't going to Starbucks, I did find a good, it's called like Oyo or something. And it's a brunch place in Canada. And that did good brunch. Although I had an issue with the one in Winnipeg. This has been 28 minutes. I'm going to go and get a water. So let's have a break. And then we both will, but I will do it now. You will do it when you're listening. Come back for part 2. Yeah, sorry, my throat's getting really dry. But then when we come back, I've got a weird thing. 2 weird things that happened in Winnipeg. But from what I gather, quite a few weird things happened in Winnipeg. See you in a bit. I cut up a lemon and some ginger and put that in hot water. I think that's going to be the key. My cat's also just come in, so you might hear a meow in the background. Okay. Yeah. So Winnipeg. First of all, when I got there, I checked into the hotel. Now, it wasn't the hotel I actually wanted, so I sent over a selection of hotels. I'm quite particular, so I think a lot of acts have someone who books the hotels and chooses them for them. But I'm quite particular. I had an issue once in Greece when I went on holiday and didn't like the place, so I booked another place the other side of the island and left. And I actually emailed the hotel to announce I was leaving. I say, let them know. And I just said it was due to unforeseen circumstances that I had to leave. The unforeseen circumstances being I didn't like the hotel. But anyway, I got to this one hotel and just something seemed off about it. When I went in the lobby, it just seemed oddly empty. It was like they'd attempted to do some sort of Christmas theme, but it seemed like, sometimes you'll see scenes from North Korea and they are sort of making it look like a shopping mall is functioning, but it's not really. That was sort of the vibe I got in quite a few places in Winnipeg, but I got it quite early in this hotel. And I went in, checked in, then when I got in the lift and went up to my floor, and when the lift door opened, people who worked in the hotel were there waiting, And it was almost like I'd taken them by surprise, because it was a man and a woman, and they sort of approached me to be like, is everything okay? Can we help you? And I'm like, oh, just checking in. They were like, okay, what's your room number? So I told them. They were like, yep, that's just down here then. And it was like, it almost like the hotel had been taken over by terrorists who were then just pretending they still worked there. It was really odd. And I got to the hotel room. The hotel room had a strange smell to it. I'd had a weird energy, so I thought, I'm just going to leave. So found another hotel the other side of Winnipeg, and I went to grab my bag and I went to leave. And then when I got to the lift, elevator, a different lady just approached, came out of nowhere. Hi, can I help you? No, fine, just checking out. Okay, right, what's your room number? And I was like, oh, no, it's fine, just go in. And I was like pressing the button for it to come. And then she was like, is everything okay? Can we do anything for you? And it was just really odd, but just strange. I mean, it sounds like, if you saw that written down, it would sound like they were just being helpful, but the whole energy was wrong. Left very quickly. Turned out it wasn't in a great area as well. It was quite a few odd things around. Anyway, went to another hotel. In fact, this other hotel actually had a Starbucks within it. Sort of its own function in Starbucks within the hotel, like lobby area, had a Starbucks aside, had its own bar and its own restaurant. But it made much more sense. And the humans there felt like real. The other people in the other hotel, I couldn't imagine them functioning outside of that hotel. It's very strange. Anyway, the next day, I did the show. Then the next day, I had a day off. I think, actually recorded a podcast from there. And I had some meetings. So I was doing that anyway. I think I had 3 meetings. But, and again, this is because it's all with people in America. It's all with people in LA. So it was the closest I will be on the right time zones. That's why I was making the most of it while I was there. Or they were. Anyway. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I went out to this other brunch place I'd found. And I'd been to one in Toronto. So when I saw they had the same one, I saw it when I was on my walk from the weird hotel to the good one. I went and sat in there and I ordered. And then this guy came and sat on the table sort of in front of me and over to the right a bit. And then he said something. When you get to these parts of Canada, the accent's very strong. He can't fully understand everything. Not everybody. Most people you can understand, and it's just an accent that you would know, that most people would know, like a North American accent. But sometimes, I think they call it the boons, when it's out there, and these people, their accent can be very, very thick and hard to understand. And he said something about him being an ice fisherman, which I thought was cool. So I was like, oh, he's an ice fisherman. I was like, oh, nice, right. Good time of year for it because it was freezing. And then said something. And then he said, and I couldn't quite understand, it sounded like he'd mentioned 50 Cent. And I was like, didn't expect, okay? It's Richard Parker. That's my cat there. Didn't expect him to mention 50 Cent, this ice fisherman in Winnipeg. And then it turned out he was asking for 50 cents. Then it turns out he was actually homeless. And he was asking me to buy him breakfast. And then the staff came and sort of took him out and he left. Because I'm not from there, I didn't know if that was what a local homeless man looks like or what a local ice fisherman looks like. So I sort of just couldn't understand what was happening. And then Winnipeg was very strange until the day I had off. That evening I found a place. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a very cool like indoor market that had bookshops and it had sushi restaurant, all these different restaurants around it. It was really cool. I then spoke to someone else when I was in, I think, Vancouver, and I mentioned I'd been to that bit, and they said, yeah, that's like the thing to go to in Winnipeg. So I did that. That was cool, actually. I really liked that. Then the next day I flew to Edmonton, where I've got a friend who lives in Edmonton, my friend Joe. So got there. There'd been a blizzard. In fact, the blizzard had hit Edmonton the night before, and it was traveling to Winnipeg. So my flight took off from Winnipeg at 1 in the afternoon, and the blizzard was due to hit at 2. And so we passed each other. And when I got to Edmonton, the snow was so deep and thick. People couldn't make the show because of the snow, which in England would sort of make sense. In Canada, you go, that must be bad for you to not have been able to be able to travel because of the snow. Some people had that in Toronto as well, actually. There were some people who said they'd had like a 2 or 3 hour journey to get to Toronto for the show and they couldn't come because of the snow. Someone's going to have a sip of this lemon and ginger. Still too hot, actually. So a lot of people, I think this is about, it was somewhere between 40 and 60 people couldn't come because of the weather. I got there and I came from Winnipeg. But anyway, it was a shame they couldn't make it. But the show was nice. Went out for dinner afterwards with my friend and then new friends because his friends came along. And then the hotel was so nice. And typically, I spend 2 nights in Winnipeg, and then it's the although the second hotel was fine. But this other hotel was nice. It had the walls moved, so you could, from like the bathroom, you could slide the whole wall to the side and make it one big room, or like bring this big wall that was on wheels back through, and it was like a big thick wooden, like dark wood, and you sort of poured it across, and then it sort of made the bathroom either be like a separate room or its own thing, and it had the whole room sort of could move and be redesigned by itself. It was incredible. But when I told people I was staying there, it was at the is it like the Marriott or something in Edmonton? People were raving about it before I got there. It was great, but didn't get to spend much time there because the next day I flew to Vancouver. Vancouver is in British Columbia. Now, I don't know why it's called that, but the weather is certainly British, and I don't know if there's like a big sort of Colombian culture there, but I don't know what Colombian culture would be to spot it, but I know for a fact that the weather's very British. It rained within an hour of me being there, but I walked around, got there at about 4, so I had that whole evening off to myself, went for a wander around, and they had the water planes, the planes that can land on water. They had all of them docked up, I guess, to go to Vancouver Island. It's really cool. And then a lovely theatre in Vancouver. So the next day, in fact, before the show, went to an amazing secondhand bookshop. I wonder if I could put a photo in this bit. I'll try and do a photo of the bookshop if you're watching the video. It's so cool. And then bought a white jumper from a vintage shop as well. Had a nice brunch. Was it nice? It was fine. The restaurant looked cool. It was fine. And then the show was in a really nice theatre though. Loved that. And one of my favourite shows of the whole tour, in fact, the Vancouver one, because I don't know, I'd done the show enough as well. I'd been making changes to the show as I went across Canada with references that was working and references that weren't working to make it work by the time I got to Vancouver. So I really enjoyed that one, actually. Thanks to everyone that came out. And it was a sold out show that we could have probably done 2 that night. In fact, not the promoter, but the lady who ran the venue was saying to me, we could have probably done that. But she did say, next time I'm over that way, you don't need a visa to perform in Canada. So I could just, next time I go to Canada on holiday, I could just go and do a show there. That would be nice. But yeah, Vancouver was cool. I liked that a lot, walking around there. Good. There's one street in Vancouver. I think you can go on YouTube and watch it. I think if you search East Hastings Street, you'll see it's sort of, I don't know how it happened, but everyone who's sort of on something illegal seems to know that that's where they should go. And then, I guess, to buy it, but also they can then live there. So they've all ended up in the same street. And it's Yeah, it's like something I've never seen before. But you sort of go down the street and then everyone's. I don't know what they're on. I don't know the like repercussion of different drugs, but it's certainly we weed is. I'm gonna have some water. Weed is legal there, but I don't think it was weed that they were on. I think it was illegal and stronger. Um, but then, yeah, I just liked walking around Vancouver. That was very cool. And a nice hotel. The hotel in Toronto and Vancouver did a really good Christmas thing in the lobby when you came in. A big Christmassy thing that made me feel like Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 2: Lost in New York, because it felt very magical and Christmas. And I was on my own, which did it as well, and had some room service. Um, then Calgary, and I used to live in Calgary. I've got family friends in Calgary, so family and friends in Calgary. Family and friends in Calgary. There's sort of like family friends that are more like family, and then there's also friends. Um, so I got there, went to the hotel, had a nap, had a shower. When I did the show, I went out for a walk at one point to Starbucks to get a tea. And as I turned down the street, I saw my name up in lights. So because I used to live in Canada as well, I lived in Calgary in 2012. It was so crazy to go back there. And then I just walked past and saw this theatre, and then my name was coming past in lights. That was nice. And then I had people I knew came to the show. A weird start. Before the show started, I went side of stage. They weren't playing my walking music. They were just playing some sort of Christmas music. And then the start of the show, instead of playing the music, they just sort of, the audience sat in silence. So it's annoying when it's the show you have been excited for because you've got people you know come in, that it's the one that goes sort of slightly wrong and the audience was sort of sat there. The audience, in fact, the start was so bad with them sort of sat there confused. The audience were laughing at the awkwardness. So I guess whatever makes them laugh. But then did the show, went out to like a. Now, I would describe it as a dive bar, but I don't know if the people who run the bar would be happy for it to be described as that. But it was like a dive bar, and we had. They did gluten-free bread for the burger and a vegan burger. I'm not vegan; I'm vegetarian, and I don't eat regular bread, so it had everything I needed. But that was cool. A live band was playing, which would be good, but there were quite a few of us, and I did just want to be able to talk to people. And then I was actually having the alcohol-free beer. I'm going to sound really fun here because it's a vegetarian burger, gluten-free bread, and alcohol-free beer. But people from the show were also there, so people kept sending over. I guess they'd seen I was drinking Heineken and had sent me the actual alcohol version, which I did have as well. I was just trying to be smart because I was trying not to get ill because it was 2 weeks in Canada. And then I got back on the 22nd or 23rd of December. In fact, so the flight was the following night. I think about 8 o'clock Calgary time, which you go there. Sorry, my cat's jumping up. And that's, I think, 7 hours? 7 hours behind. So it'd be about 3 o'clock in the morning here. And then I thought, oh, great, I'll get on there, get like into bed and just sleep on the plane. Couldn't really sleep. Think maybe I slept for 2 or 3 hours, maybe. Got back home at 11 a.m. and then crawled into bed, thought I would sleep for an hour and woke up and 4.5 hours had passed. It was dark and I had absolutely no idea where I was. The thing is, when you're going from hotel to hotel to hotel, you will wake up in the night for a wee or wake up in the morning for life, and before you've opened your eyes, you won't actually know where you are. So you'll sort of go, right, where is the door from where I am? And you couldn't quite remember. Every single one was different. So that, when I got home, then it was even more confusing to be there with Richard Parker. My cat was asleep on the bed with me. 4.5 hours deep sleep. Then I think I just forgot about jet lag being a thing because I kept waking up at 3 in the morning and I would lay there till 5. I did that twice and then slept again. So I was sleeping till 11, till midday. And then it was Christmas. So you up early anyway. I think Christmas sort of helped with jet lag because I get up early because I'm excited. So I was up early for Christmas and then sort of back into it because Christmas is anyways is an odd time, isn't it? You don't know what day or time it is anyway. So that sort of helped jet lag sort of got confused with whatever's happening when you're in Christmas time. But then I had a show on the 28th of December. So that again is back into work. And then and now, yeah, here we go. Now it's so actually this is it Friday? This will come out on Monday. It's Friday, it's the 2nd. I have got a lot of exciting stuff happening in January. So it has meant actually, and I loved Christmas and I loved New Year's. We had friends come over on New Year's and friends, my friends, I won't name them in case they're not telling everybody yet, but maybe I shouldn't say anything. It's probably quite obvious now. I don't know, is it? I didn't post who was over at mine. So I think it's fine. I didn't post that they were at mine. I didn't post on social media, so nobody would know. Friends of mine are now having a baby, and but they're telling people now. So they told me, and they told other friends on Christmas Eve. So everybody knows. So that was, in fact, what was crazy was I'd been on my armchair about an hour before they arrived, having a cup of tea and just trying to sort of get some energy before everybody turned up. And I thought to myself, imagine if they came over and said that they're having a baby. An hour later, they're telling me. And so I looked surprised because of it and also because I'd predicted it. So yeah, that was nice. So obviously not everyone could drink, but we made up for it. Played some fun games. And then sang the only words we knew to Auld Lang Syne, which were Auld Lang Syne, but then just sort of murmured in that. Isn't it weird? You sort of start, if you do Auld Lang Syne, basically, most of us start the year pretending to know the words to a song. Every year, we make the same mistake, going, didn't learn it again. For Auld Lang Syne. Would it be good or annoying to be the one that knew the words? Because I imagine it'd be annoying actually, wouldn't it? I'm never going to remember. But that was nice. And then New Year's Day is a very guilt-free day, isn't it? You don't do much. Watched if you can hear Richard Parker meowing. Do you want food? I'm almost done. But you're my co-host for today. He sort of must be so confusing to him because I'm just sat in a chair, just sort of talking to myself as far as he's concerned. He can't figure out what's happening here. Watched a documentary last night. What's it called? It's about the journalist who sort of exposed the Vietnam War. Cy Hirsch. What's it called? It's on Netflix. It's new. It's heavier than I thought it was going to be when I sat down to watch it. Sort of seeing dead animals and then dead people quite quickly, but really good. It makes you sort of watching it going, that's someone really doing something with his life. And then you find out how he sort of fell into the job as well, and it's just sort of what he was born to do, but he didn't even know it. What is this? It's Cy Hirsch, I think is his name. Cover Up, I think it's called. He's great, and you can even hear phone calls between Nixon and Kissinger talking about how annoying he is because he's so good at his job, which is great. I wonder if people ever say that about me. But really, really good. Feel like you'll watch it and you'll feel like, wow, this guy, and you make him. It's heavy, so sort of prepared to feel a bit low, but inspired by this guy, basically. It's quite a highbrow thing to watch as well, actually. It makes you feel smart watching it. And then that was it. And now it's Friday, the 2nd. This will come out on the Monday. So, switch off a bit over the weekends, and then that's it. Just come back around, and we're back to. But I feel like you'll be listening to this on Monday if you haven't switched off yet, and maybe on your like commute to work, or maybe it's later in the week and you're back to work. And there'll be a bit of you thinking, "Oh, back to work," but there'll be a bit of you going, "It's nice to have a bit of structure back, isn't it?" It's, it's pretty good to have, I think. I feel like that's sort of the debate everyone's having. Yeah, good to have time off, but nice to have a sort of a purpose again. So yeah, that's it. That was my tour in Canada, and that was my Christmas and New Year. Richard Parker is now sort of really trying to get my attention. You okay? Do you want to say hello? He was just smelling the microphone and then went to grab at it because it's got a furry bit, so I should have seen that coming. Right, I'm going to go and feed Richard Parker, and I will see you next week, whether with George or on my own again. Either way, have a good week. Happy New Year. At what point do you stop saying that? It's quite nice to say, doesn't it? It makes you feel like an adult when you say it to someone. Anyway, see you soon. Happy New Year. It's nice. You sort of start saying it 30th, I think. Wonder when you stop. I'd say you've got a week. I think stop by Monday. Really? Oh no, because you'll be at work and you might be sending emails, in which case you'll want to start with it because it gets rid of the. I don't know if you do the same as me. At the start of an email, I won't say, "How are you?" I say, "Hope you're well." So they don't have to respond to it. But you get to go, "Happy New Year." That's at least an in. It's actually a good time to start a cold email to someone because you straight in with that. Bang, Happy New Year. Anyway, here's the point of the email. So yeah, you'll be saying it this week, and then sort of stop at Friday. I think that's about. Maybe stop by Wednesday. What's that? Is that the 5th? No, 5th is Monday. 6th, 7th. Oh, 6th, 7th. There we go. Stop by Wednesday. That's enough, I think. A week in. We're in the new year then. Right. Happy New Year. See you next week. Bye.